Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dan again from CryptoCamacho.com. And today, guys, I want you to think. I am going to make you think like you've never thought before. Today, guys, I want to talk about something that will be fairly thought-provoking. I want to make some pretty bold predictions here about what's going to happen to the internet given blockchain technology, given other cryptocurrency technologies that are now coming out. I want to kind of all-out prophesy of what's actually going to happen to the internet as we go further and further down the path of this crazy blockchain experiment that we're now, running and seeing the fruits of as we kind of go on day to day. So today I wanted to talk about, how blockchain will fundamentally transform the internet from the inside out and take a minute to kind of digest what I just said. Blockchain technology and other technologies that are similar to blockchain are going to fundamentally change the internet, change the structure and the dynamics of the internet from the core, from the inside out. And I'm going to show you how exactly that's going to happen. But first, I was on Twitter, just the other day, and I kind of ran into this image right here. And this image doesn't look all that special, doesn't look all that crazy, right? But it really got me to think about what blockchain is now doing to the current internet environment or the current landscape of the internet. So this image right here, it's a picture of the landscape of decentralized apps and platforms, right? If I zoom in, you're going to see, a variety of different types of technologies being built on top of blockchain, right? On top of blockchain type of technologies. These are the different types of things being built, right? That are decentralized applications and or platforms that are being built, right? We have exchanges being built. We have new browsers being built. We have a number of cryptocurrency and blockchain wallets being built. We have financial applications being built out, lending programs being built out. We have a variety of marketplaces being built out, as you guys have seen with a number of different things. We have marketplaces for advertising, for lending, for analytics, for different things like that. We see different private tokens coming out, different kind of social exchanges being built, kind of all these different things. And if I zoom over here, different types of infrastructure plays, right? For analytics, for notifications, for chat, for all these different types of things are being built out because of the decentralized nature of blockchain, right? Now, what does this have to do with what I'm talking about of how blockchain will transform the internet, right? So if you look right here at this image, this is the very, very beginnings, the early beginnings of how blockchain technology is now being built out. If you zoom back to like the early 90s, right, even the 2000s, you can find similar maps like this of the internet itself, right? And the internet itself, back in the early 90s, I mean, just search for internet in the 90s, and you're going to see all kinds of things pop up like this, right? You're going to see Internet Explorer, you're going to see Yahoo GeoCities, you're going to see AOL.com. You're going to see all these legacy kind of companies that existed in the 90s, right? When the World Wide Web was really taking off in the 90s, you had all these early companies that have popped out, right? And you can tell that the interfaces of these technologies, I mean, look at Internet Explorer, the browser itself. Like the interfaces of these technologies are very old school, right? They're legacy, they're old school. And you can actually kind of compare that to the cryptocurrency space today, right? If you look at any of the exchanges today, you look at the interfaces of how to buy and sell Bitcoin, how to transfer Bitcoin from one wallet to another. Very clunky, very kind of difficult to manage, a little bit complicated. The average user wouldn't know what to do with it, right? I mean, I talk to my mom or my sister or somebody like that, and I say, hey, you guys, can you go buy some Bitcoin and can you send me that Bitcoin in a wallet? They'll be like, I have no idea how to do that, no clue. Even people that are somewhat tech savvy don't completely know how to do it, right? Right now, we're kind of at this stage with blockchain, right now. So blockchain is brand new, just coming out. So I kind of compare it or liken it to the internet of the 90s, right? And so stay with me now because I want to kind of keep building on this story that I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth and how blockchain is going to transform all of this, right? So here's kind of an early picture of the internet as well, right? You have, early internet, 1970, email was invented, internet was just kind of computers connected together. Then came the World Wide Web, 1989, AOL launched, Netscape, the first browser, Yahoo, one of the biggest websites back then. Amazon popped out, Google, kind of eBay, all these different companies. blogging platforms, social networking popped out. And this is kind of like an early view of the internet, right? In this view of the internet, I kind of liken to this view of the landscape of decentralized apps and platforms for blockchain today, right? Because that's actually what's happening. So now let's take a step back and let's go back in time and let's look at how the internet has kind of been divided and subdivided into different phases as it's progressed to where it is today, right? We have a very rich internet today. It wasn't always like that, guys, right? So we first had, let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so we first, in the early days of the internet, like the 90s, right, we had what was called Web 1.0, right? Web 1.0 was essentially content being generated by the administrator of a website, right? If I wanted to make a website, I would go and I'd build that website by coding HTML. There weren't any fancy coders back then, but I would essentially code it, and then I would put whatever information I wanted to on my website, right? The content was generated by me, the admin of the site, right? And that's really it. Nobody else was generating content. It was really simply the admin just posting stuff on the website, right? Then a few years later came Web 2.0. Web 2.0, what that did is it enabled folks to then post their own content on an internet site, right? So now all of a sudden you have a website that now content is now being generated by the users that are looking at that website, not just by the admin. The admin could create content, but now you also have users that are reading the content and creating content themselves. They're commenting on the content. They may be posting an article, you know, whatever. They're creating content, right? Then after that, a few years later, you have Web 3.0. And what Web 3.0, it's content generated by a community of people and interconnections between that content to surface similar content, right? To bring up content that might be related. Think when you go to Amazon. If you go to Amazon, you search for a certain book you like. Maybe it's Beauty and the Beast. You search for the book Beauty and the Beast. That pops up on Amazon. You decide you don't want to buy it. You leave. Then you go to another website. Maybe you go to your favorite blog and you're reading your favorite blog. All of a sudden, Beauty and the Beast pops up. Why is that, right? Because it has context of what else you viewed on the internet, who you might be, and it serves up, a contextually based ad based on what your preferences are, based on what your history is, right? So we have Web 3.0, where it's kind of taking the internet to a whole nother level, which they call the semantic web. Another way to look at this, and I'll bring this back to blockchain in just a moment here, but it's really important that you guys understand this foundation first before going any further. So another way to look at this is Web.0 created things like personal websites, content management systems like WordPress, created Google to search for content, message board, very basic things, right, for internet or Web 1.0, the internet 1.0. Web 2.0 created things like blogs, right? Now people can actually interact with the content you're posting, right? Wikipedia was developed because any user can contribute to Wikipedia to advance the knowledge contained in the Wikipedia encyclopedia, right? Then you had things like Google being more personalized, understanding what you have searched before, so giving you what you might want to search in the future, becoming more contextualized. You have things like online social networks. MySpace popped up. Facebook starts popping up to start really connecting people together, connecting content, connecting people together. Then all of a sudden you had Web 3.0, and that's where we're living right now, is Web 3.0. You have what's called semantic technology, semantic blog, semantic wiki, semantic search, where everything is related to one another, right? What you've searched on one website is contextually relevant to what you're going to search for on another website, which is contextually relevant to what you might buy on Amazon, which is contextually relevant to what ads you might be served up on a different website. It's all connected together, guys, in this semantic web is what they call it. It's all connected together by tags, by metadata, by user behaviors, by activities you've done, by your purchase behavior. All of these things are now contained together in a database, which we call the World Wide Web or the internet, and they interact with one another, right? So the last way to kind of portray this is really right here. Crawl, walk, run, one. Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, right? And the nature of the web has actually changed, and the reasons and how we use the internet has actually changed based on the technology that's being run behind the scenes on the web, right? So in Web.0, it was mostly people just went to the internet and just read. They just read like a newspaper, right? In Web 2.0, people not only read the newspaper on the internet, but they actually interacted with it and told you if they agreed or disagreed with what you wrote, right? So there's this element of interactivity. Web 3.0, now people may see different things if they go to the same website. So you go to website A, you go to wallstreetjournal.com, and you may see one ad for one thing, somebody else may see an ad for something else, somebody else may see an ad for something else. That happens all the time. So it's gone from Web.0 being company focused and promoting what they want to Web 2.0 being community focused, where there's more people who have an opinion and a say about what's being done, to Web 3.0 to very individualized and individually focused or personalized, right? Personalized content that you can now interact with, smart applications that you can interact with, that know you, that know your behavior, that know what you want, and can predict what you want, right? So this is all very, very important in where we're going again with decentralized internet, right? With blockchain and with ultimately the decentralized internet the way I see it. So what's going to happen with the decentralized internet and with blockchain is we're going to be moving out of this phase of Web 3.0, of the semantic web, where it's still going to be the semantic web. You're still going to have interactions and personalization and very specifically tailored content to your needs. But what's going to be different in Web 4.0 is that blockchain is going to be incorporated into the infrastructure of the internet. So the internet itself is going to be gutted and essentially rebuilt from the inside out. And you can see this happening right here, right? Browsers already exist on the internet, but new browsers are being built. Marketplaces already exist on the internet. New marketplaces are being built that are built on blockchain, right? And being tracked and stored on blockchain, right? All of these things are being built, but they're being built on blockchain now. Think of Steemit, right? You have Facebook, which is the biggest social media network in the world. Now you have things like Steemit coming up, steemit.com. If you don't know what it is, go to steemit.com. But Steemit, what it is, it's essentially an attempt to take over Facebook. Not tomorrow, not next month, but in the long term. Steemit is a way to create a social network based on peer-to-peer technology that does not rely on advertising to support the network, right? To support the website, to support the ecosystem. Traditionally, the internet in the early days of Web, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, the internet has relied very, very, very heavily on advertising, right? On an advertising paradigm to support it. Think of Google. Google's probably, one of the biggest companies in the world. Their entire business model, not entire, but a large part of their business model relies on advertisers spending money, right? That's what Google search is. That's how it works. Advertisers spend money to connect with buyers, right? That's how it works. Facebook, same thing. You go to Facebook, the primary source of revenue for Facebook is advertising, right? They show you ads all over the place. They incorporate ads into your feeds, into your news feeds, into your personal feeds, whatever, because they're selling advertising, right? And in the current state of the internet today, there are centralized companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, all these centralized companies, which act like central companies, right? And they're acting like that because that's what they are. They're not distributed. They're centralized companies that make their money from advertising technology or from selling a product, right? Product or service, right? In Web 4.0, we're transforming this and we're putting this all on its head. We're turning it all on its head because what is going to happen is everything on the internet is going to be rebuilt and tokenized. And so that's very, very important that you understand this. Everything will become tokenized. And what that actually means is that the internet is essentially going to be tokenized in a way that allows the end users to have a monetary or financial stake in the success of that internet application. Take a minute and think about what that actually means, guys. So today, you do not have a financial stake in Facebook, right? You don't own Facebook. You don't own, unless you own Facebook stock, you don't own Facebook. And if you own Facebook stock, you're banking on the fact that Facebook, is going to, come up with a clever way to advertise next month that's going to boost their profits to keep them sustainable over time so that their shares go up in value and you profit as an end user. That's really the only way you could financially participate in the Facebook ecosystem and maybe make some money off of Facebook, right? All of that's going to change with blockchain because you're going to be able to own the tokens that are created to support something like Facebook, right? So again, think of Steemit. You got Steemit tokens, right? They're basically essentially tokenizing Steemit to allow you to invest in Steemit to say, okay, I want to buy a piece of Steemit, so I'm going to own Steemit tokens, which are kind of like stocks, right? You own Steemit tokens, And then based on the success of the network, based on the success of the application, based on the value of the application, based on the value of the network, the size of the network, the value of that token that you own will go up or down in value, right? If the network becomes very, very strong, many interactions, many like people participating in the network, the value of that network is going to go up in value, right? So a Steem It token may today be worth $1, tomorrow it may be worth $10, next year it may be worth $100. And as the network grows, it's going to be more and more valuable, right? And the thing that Steem It's not going to have to do, they're not going to have to advertise anything, right? They're not going to have to advertise at all, because the value of their ecosystem is what dictates that price of that token, right? And it dictates the value of that company, if you will, right? So think about that for a moment. Everything that is on the internet will eventually be tokenized, right? Every application, every website, every type of product will eventually be tokenized, right? It's just more efficient to do that. And what that does, it allows the end user, it allows the public to own a piece of that application, a piece of that website, a piece of that technology from the ground up. You can own it from the very, very beginning and ground up. So if a company grows into the size of Google, that token can also grow in value to the size of Google, right? So that's kind of one aspect, right? But then not only are you going to be able to own part of the company and part of the technology, right, based on tokens that you can actually buy and sell, you're also going to be able to trade between those types of applications, right? So really, what's actually happening now to the internet has never before happened in human history, and what we're seeing now is one of the most extraordinary transformations of the internet that we've ever seen. And so ultimately what's going to happen is that every corner of the internet, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's cloud computing, whether it's social media, whether it's you name it, right? Any SaaS app, software as a service app, any type of business model right now that's on the internet, it's going to be transformed from the inside out. And every single application on the internet eventually is going to become tokenized, and any individual in the world will be able to participate in the financial growth and value creation of that company moving forward, right? So that's never happened before. Like you're going to be able to, I mean, essentially what's going to happen is the internet is going to become like the world's biggest stock market. The biggest stock market you have ever seen is going to become what the internet will be in years' time, right? Because any individual in the world will be able to invest in any type of technology that's been tokenized on the internet. And the success of that company is not going to be based on advertising revenue models, right? Or models that rely on advertising to support them, right? And that's just not going to happen anymore. I mean, it may happen in certain areas, but generally speaking, it's not going to happen. And companies are going to grow based on the merit of the utility or the value they create with the utility of their application, right? So the better the application, the better the solution, the better the network, the stronger the network, the more valuable it will become over time. And it will become more and more valuable as long as the network finds value in that network, in that application, in that solution, it will thrive in this new internet economy that's going to be built over the next couple of decades, right? I don't know exactly when this is going to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's definitely happening now. If you look at this image right here behind me, it's definitely happening right now slowly. We're at the very, very beginning stages of this, but you can bet on, and you mark my words, that Web 4.0 is going to look eerily similar to what I've been describing here, right? I guarantee people are going to comment, not everything's going to be tokenized. This isn't going to work for everything. And they might be right. But generally speaking, the whole internet is going to transform into a more of like a financial type of model versus like an advertising model, right? Where people can actually participate in the growth of the actual internet itself from a financial perspective, right? And it's fascinating what's actually going on. Very, very interesting what's going on. I would love to know your thoughts on this concept, on if you think this is going to happen. I expect this to happen. And so if you get in early, you invest in some of these technologies early on, right? Like the IOTAs, like different companies like Stellar Lumens, like companies that are building platforms which enable decentralized applications to be built. They are going to have the most success in this new Web 4.0 or Internet 4.0 environment that we're going to be entering into, right? Because they're going to be setting the groundwork for other companies to build on top of, to tokenize, whatever product or service or application they may have. These people down below, the infrastructure layer, right? The IOTAs of the world, the blockchains of the world, they are going to profit the most, right? Because there will be the most transactions occurring at the network level, at the infrastructure level versus the application layer above, right? And that's why I'm very bullish on this, is that for the first time in history, people are going to be able to participate and invest in the technology layer itself that will power, application after application after application in the new model of the internet that's going to come forward. So I think this is an extraordinary time to invest. It's an extraordinary time to be alive, to see what's going to happen to the internet, to see what the new internet is going to give us. It's going to be a fascinating time, and new business models, bigger opportunities are going to pop up like you have never, ever seen before. We've seen this, kind of the start of this already, but we've barely even scratched the surface on this, guys. So take this for what it's worth. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, but get ready for Web 4.0, where the entire internet becomes a living and breathing stock market that anybody can participate in, from the highest levels to the lowest levels. Anybody will be able to participate in this, and anybody will be able to own a piece of the technology, a piece of the companies that are being created by this crazy new technology, blockchain, Tangle, others that are out there. I'm super excited. I couldn't be more excited for this new technology to come forward. I see the writing on the wall. I see the internet transforming from the inside out, and I just couldn't be more excited. I hope this helps. I hope this gives you perspective into why I feel the cryptocurrency revolution is so important and so mind kind of blowing or extraordinary. It's not just about governments. It's not just about banks going away. It's about revamping, restructuring, and virtually reconstructing how the internet is made today. And allowing a democratized way for people to participate and invest in the value of the internet and the things that are created on top of the internet, right? Super excited about this, guys. I'm Dan from CryptoCamacho.com. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a like, give me a comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel right there. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.